Uryu Ishida. Uryu Ishida, Ishida Uryu, is a gemished Quincy residing in Karakura town. He is a doctor at Karakura Hospital, and a friend of Ichigo Kurosaki. He is a former member of the Wandenreika's Sternritter with the designation A, antithesis, formerly one of Yhwach's Schutzstaffel, Schutzstaffel, German 4, Protective Echelon, Japanese 4, Elite/Imperial Guards, and was once designated as his future successor. Uryu was born after Ryukin Ishida married Kane Katajiri, which happened after the infection of Masaki Kurosaki, to whom Ryukin's mother originally intended him to marry. 6 years before he befriended Ichigo Kurosaki, his mother lost consciousness on the same day Masaki died, June 17, and died herself 3 months later as Yhwach performed his Oswalin technique and took her powers. As a child, Uryu mostly interacted and trained with his grandfather, Soken Ishida. His father, Ryukin Ishida, was less than enthusiastic about being a Quincy, claiming that it was not a profitable occupation. They do not appear to be on very good terms as a result, given Uryu's casual use of his father's given name. Soken understands Ryukin's reasoning, since being a Quincy is more about justice than material rewards, and Ryukin has a family to support. Soken told Uryu that he would someday understand his father's motives, but thus far this is not the case. This was compounded as Uryu would watch Ryukin dissect Kane's dead body, and he begged his father to stop. That day, he decided he would never become a doctor. At a fairly young age, Uryu's grandfather was killed by hollows right in front of him, and Uryu was unable to do a thing to protect him. This is one of the reasons why he hates the Shinigami, who did not come to rescue Soken in time. Appearance: Uryu Ishida is a bespectacled teenager of average height and slender build. He has straight, chin-length black hair framing both sides of his face, and is fair-skinned with blue eyes. In school, Uryu wears the respective school uniform along with a tie. When confronting hollows, he typically dons white Quincy clothes, with blue stripes representing the Quincy cross, and a mantle. 17 months after Aizen's defeat, Uryu's bangs hang mostly on the right side of his face, and the rest hang behind his left ear, due to his glasses. After joining the Wandenreik, Uryu wears a white, double-breasted trench coat underneath a long white cape. The coat is fastened by 3 buttons emblazoned with the Quincy Zaichin on either side and a white belt with a gold buckle around the waist. Its shoulders are clasped to its neck, and the inside of the collar features a rectangular sigil on either side. Uryu also wears a pin shaped like a winged star circled by a halo on his right breast. Personality: Uryu is generally quiet and solitary, but tries harder to act cool when other people are around. Uryu is a member of the Handicrafts Club at Karakura High School, and is highly skilled at sewing. While Uryu does not mind stitching things for his friends, his sense of design forces him to add unexpected designs. For example, when he makes new clothing for Chad and Orihime, he replaces the single red line of Chad's original shirt with a red cross, saying that it was better, and since he could not copy the 3 white dots on Orihime's shirt, he instead adds frilly lace and 2 flower-like buds at the bottom. Uryu has low blood pressure and hates procrastination. The other things he hates are quite odd: buttons, despite being an expert in sewing, and the word haphazard. His favorite food is homemade mackerel miso stew. He likes Don Kanonji's television program Burare so much that he attends the live broadcast of the filming in Karakura town. He loves wearing a mantle, even though it serves no purpose other than to make him feel cooler, despite the fact that it hinders his movement, even keeping a spare with him. He has a tendency to say things melodramatically. Uryu has proven to be gullible at times. During an omake, he starts getting irritated at the fact that a weapon, a Zanpakuto in this case, has a will of own. Ichigo tricks him into thinking that Jinrei Kojaku has actually materialized, to which Uryu sheds a happy tear. Uryu operates on a moral ethic known as the pride of the Quincy, and has a strong sense of justice. He is very chivalrous, stating that he enacts justice on men who abuse or treat women badly, leading him to attempt to defend Rukia Kachiki from Rinji Aburai when he and Byakuya Kachiki came to the human world to arrest her, and protects Orihime Inoue during their time in Soul Society. Despite him disliking Shinigami, Uryu has learned to at least work closely with the ones whom Ichigo is closest with and has supposedly discarded most of his personal grudge. He also has a tendency to not use lethal force in battle, especially if he can win without doing so, while often trying to simply incapacitate his opponent. Equipment: Quincy Cross, Quincy Kurosu, Japanese for Destruction Cross. The Quincy Cross is the source of a Quincy's power. As Uryu's power grows, so does his cross. Originally a simple cross, it later became a pentacle after regaining his powers. Seal Schneider. Uryu is highly capable of using the soul-cutting sword with great proficiency, easily defeating Shirochi Sanderwichi with it. Despite his lack of practice beforehand, Uryu had just recently stolen the weapons from his father's storage room. Hollow Bait, Taiharoyu no Maki, lit. Scatter bait for use against hollows, typically used by Quincy to aid in the extermination of low-level hollows. It attracts them when the flat, round tablet is crushed and scattered. Uryu uses it to summon hollows to Karakura town during his duel with Ichigo Kurosaki. Silver Draught, Zeruba Dorado, German for silver wire, a silver wire that Uryu conceals around his right arm after losing his powers to the Quincy. Let's still. Uryu uses it to fight a Minos Grande that attacks him. Anti-Arankar Mine, Arankarus Senio no Jirai, lit. Arankar dedicated mine. After rescuing Uryu from Sailaporo, Mayuri Kuratsuchi gives Uryu a landmine he created, which is designed for use against Arankar. Once its sensors pick up an Arankar's Ryatsu, it detonates violently. Uryu subsequently uses it on the Espada Yami Largo, critically injuring the Arankar in his sealed state. The explosion was very powerful. Leiden Hand, former in order to match more powerful opponents he would face in Soul Society, Uryu trained using his grandfather's gift, the Sanrei glove. Upon completing the necessary week of endurance training wearing the glove, his power drastically increased. He manifested a different bow and increased all of his attributes, easily overpowering a Shinigami captain. The glove dissipated upon removal. Hakumen Kadashi, Fair Face Purge. Putting the anti-Arankar mine developed by Mayuri to practical use, Uryu detonates the landmine in such a manner that it not only inflicts significant injury to an opponent, but also destroys the ground beneath them. When used against Yami Largo, in order to maximize the damage and protract the Espada's subsequent fall, Uryu weakened the lower levels of the structure that they were in. Silver Arrowhead. Uryu's father, Ryukin Ishida, has managed to collect the silver blood clot from his wife's heart that was formed from the Oswalin and forged an arrowhead out of it. During the final stages of the Blood War, Ryukin delivered this arrowhead to Uryu, telling him that he is the one who should shoot Yawatch with it. Powers and abilities. Antithesis, Anchisashisu. Japanese for perfect anti-setup. Uryu can designate any two targets and completely reverse anything that has already occurred between the two of them. For example, if Uryu were to be greatly injured while fighting an opponent, he could reverse what occurred between himself and his enemy, simultaneously healing himself while grievously wounding his opponent. Oswalin immunity. According to Yawatch, Uryu is the only gemished Quincy to have survived the effects of his Oswalin 9 years ago. Uryu not only survived, but he also retained all of his powers, unlike some Sternritter who lost powers due to the Oswalin. Racier manipulation. As a Quincy, he primarily absorbs spiritual energy from the atmosphere, and combines it with his own spiritual energy to form weapons. He has an easier time collecting this energy in environments with higher concentrations of Racier, such as in Soul Society or Hueco Mundo. He can manipulate spiritual energy for offensive purposes. Uryu commonly reshapes spiritual particles into various types of bow and arrows, but can also concentrate spiritual energy into the form of swords, Seal Schneider, or Jinto. Hirenkyaku expert. Uryu is highly skilled in the use of the technique, keeping up with Captain Mayuri Kuratsuchi, who complimented his skill, stating it was a skill that was hard to master, especially at such a young age. Uryu has also learned a variation of the technique, which creates a platform of Racier under the user's feet. Originally used while traveling to Hueco Mundo, he has found use for it outside of the Garganta, and can carry others with him on the platform. Ransatengai, Heavenly Wild Puppet Suit, viz. Disheveled Paradise Puppet, a high-level technique which is quite rare among the Quincy. Uryu is well versed in the use of this ability, which was not possessed by a good majority of the former living Quincy. It allows the user to use spirit energy to manipulate their own body in the case of paralysis. Jinto expert. He is able to use the spiritual energy stored in the silver tubes to create similar effects to Kido. Uryu can even use his own energy, rather than the energy stored in the silver tube. Jinto was his primary weapon of choice, albeit only, against an incomplete Arankar during the Arankar invasion. He was only able to injure it before his father saved him, but this feat alone was great, as he could not use any of his Quincy abilities at the time. Master Archer. When a Quincy becomes more skilled using their bow and Hylic file, they gain more power and precision with their arrows. This is similar to how a marksman gains skill and hits the target more frequently. Uryu Ishida has greatly increased his power and skill throughout his association with Ichigo Kurosaki, and is a prime example of this growth. He has great accuracy, able to instantly kill hollows with one arrow. During the Ryoka invasion, he fights Jirobo Ikenzaka, another projectile-type user, and easily defeats him. After defeating him, Uryu fires 2 arrows through his soul chain and soul sleep, preventing him from ever harming anyone again. He attempted to attack Orihime Inoue. Path control. When Uryu fought Tsuruchi Sanderwichi in Las Noches, he was able to curve his arrow's path after firing them, putting stress on the former espada. This effectively makes the Quincy's Heilig file similar to miniature heat-seeking missiles, but instead of locking on to heat, they target whatever enemy they have. It is unknown how long Uryu can control the arrow's path, or if there is a limit to how many can be under his control. So far, he has only fired 3 simultaneously using this method. Attack negation. Uryu can fire his arrows with pinpoint precision to the point where they negate another attack on impact. To do this, he charges the arrows with a sufficient amount of power and fires them to strike an incoming projectile. He has used his Heilig file in this way twice, once against Eislinger Werner's Una Tiratir attack, and a second time against Tsuruchi's Galandrina. It was especially useful against Eislinger, since the Ehrenkar could only fire 108 projectiles at once, almost 1/12th the amount of arrows Uryu can fire. Expert swordsman. During his fight with Tsuruchi Sanderwichi, Uryu uses Seal Schneider as a sword expertly, and easily defeats her with it. Even though it is really an arrow, and his main prowess lies in archery and Quincy techniques, it is clear that Uryu has some ability with the sword. He also uses his Seal Schneider against Senbon Sakura, and successfully holds his ground for a short time. Expert hand-to-hand combatant. While preferring to fight at mid to long range to make full use of his Quincy powers, Uryu is also a highly capable close-range and bare-handed fighter. When a street gang came to Karakura High School to cause trouble, Uryu calmly approached them, and showed his skill by easily subduing them, albeit with some assistance from Ichigo. Like his weapon style, Uryu's bare-handed style is more about precise strikes than brute force. Spiritual awareness. As a Quincy, Uryu can sense hollows at a significant distance. He sensed a new hollow in an area before either Rukia Kachiki and Ichigo Kurosaki sensed its arrival. He also knew which direction it was in. High spiritual power. Uryu has displayed a high amount of spiritual energy. He has mastered the Quincy ability of Ryuryoku absorption, taking in spirit particles and spirit energy alike. This, on top of his own energy reserves, lends him plenty of strength in combat. When his father restored his powers, Uryu's spiritual force proved so great that it took them a week or so to finish, and his father still needed to draw out a stronger arrow, as opposed to shooting him single-handedly, to restore his powers and exhaust him completely. His Ryatsu is light blue. Excellent intellect and athleticism. Aside from his Quincy powers, Uryu is well trained in both body and mind, having substantial athletic abilities and a genius intellect. He uses his intelligence to find weak points in his opponents, even overcoming disadvantages he has through thinking on his feet. Due to keeping his physical abilities at their peak, Uryu can easily hold out against all but the most resilient opponents during a battle. He is able to deduce Ichigo's spiritual level, that Ichigo acquired his Shinigami powers in mid-May, and Rukia Kachiki's real identity. Multilingual, he possesses some knowledge of Spanish, as he understands the Spanish terms used by the Ehrenkar. Uryu told Yami upon his defeat, Mala Suerte, which means tough luck, before the latter fell through Las Noches. He has also read a German book. Medical knowledge. Having graduated medical school and become a doctor, Uryu is well versed in medicine. Spirit weapon. Heilig Bogen, Heirihi Bogen, German for Holy Bow, Japanese for Sacred Bow, comma. After joining the Wandenreich, Uryu wields a new, light-colored bow. It is roughly as tall as he is and has semi-straight arms tapering off into points, with the handle being significantly thinner than the rest of the bow is. While facing Jugram Hashwalth later on, Uryu uses a bow with 4 long prongs and 2 spikes extending from the center. Heilig File, Heirihi Puferu, German for Holy Arrow, Japanese for Sacred Destruction Arrows. As with his previous bows, Uryu can draw rapier from the surrounding area and form arrows with it. However, his Heilig File are significantly different. They have noticeable arrowheads, and their ends are shaped like a Quincy Zaichin with the arms bent back. Enhanced Licht Regen, Rihido Regen, German/Dutch for Light Rain, Japanese for Rain of Light. Uryu no longer needs to visibly collect rapier along his left shoulder in preparation for using this technique, and can unleash a barrage of Heilig File upon his target near instantaneously. Former powers and abilities. Spirit weapon. Kojaku, Arc Sparrow, viz., Lone Sparrow, Uryu's first bow. Kojaku's size is dependent on the amount of energy flowing through it. With this bow, Uryu is able to kill most hollows in a single strike. His Heilig File can also split apart mid-flight and strike multiple targets. As preparation for his travel to Soul Society, Uryu later masters the Sanrei Glove, greatly increasing his abilities. In this state, his Kojaku is solid, and is covered in an intricate pattern. It is attached to his glove by a series of thin struts. This new bow allows Uryu to fire several shots simultaneously. By removing the glove, Uryu attains the Quincy, Let's Still. This gives him a vast increase in power, enough to defeat a Captain-class Shinigami with Bankai in only one shot. All the extra energy collects on his right shoulder, much like how a quiver is worn. As a result of removing the glove, however, the Quincy, Let's Still uses too much power for Uryu's body to handle, causing his body to block his Quincy powers completely after it wears off. Jinrei Kojaku, Arc Sparrow of the Silver Peak, viz., Lone Sparrow on a silver cliff. After Uryu regains his powers with the aid of his father, he uses this new Quincy cross, this one resembling a pentacle, and a variant of his original bow. This bow is first used during his battle with the Arankar Eislinger Werner, and several of its special abilities were later used in his fight against Tsuruchi Sanderwichi. Unlike his original bow, this bow is shaped like a spider's web. Heilig File, Heirihi Puferu, German for Holy Arrow, Japanese for Sacred Destruction Arrows. Uryu can gather Reisher from his surroundings and shape it into arrows. With Jinrei Kojaku, Uryu can fire up to 1,200 shots consecutively. He can fire hundreds of arrows all at once, which Ichigo Kurosaki refers to as bug spray, after he uses it on a swarm of hollows. Arrow Ricochet. Uryu can ricochet individual shots off of walls to shoot around corners, make the direction of his attacks unpredictable, and change the direction of his shots while in flight. Licht Regen, Rihido Regen, German/Dutch for Light Rain, Japanese for Rain of Light. Uryu first used this technique in conjunction with his new spirit bow Jinrei Kojaku. A large amount of Ryoryoku is gathered at Uryu's left shoulder, much like when he used the Quincy, Let's Still. He then fires a volley of arrows at a single target. Reisher Shield. Though it is not meant to be used in this manner, Uryu is able to use Jinrei Kojaku as a temporary shield to block some attacks. Heilig Bogen, Heirihi Bogen, German for Holy Bow, Japanese for Sacred Bow. 17 months after the defeat of Aizen, Uryu has a new bow. It is smaller in size, resembling his father's. An arrow forms down the middle of each side of the bow, with a line that crosses it near the center. Heilig File. Just like his previous bows, Uryu can gather Reisher from his surroundings and shape it into arrows. According to Quilljopi, Uryu's Heilig File should not be weaker than his own. Quincy, Let's Still. Uryu used this transformation once at the cost of his powers. It greatly enhances his power, to the point where he easily overwhelms Mayuri Kuratsuchi, nearly killing him before his escape. Currently, he cannot use this technique again. In this form, his standard uniform completely changes. He now wears a white vest which is parted in the middle. Armor appears on his left shoulder, sporting a cross-like design, which spreads across his chest. He gains a white cloth, covered in several line designs, which covers his lower half. From his right shoulder, a wing made of Ryoryoku forms. Uryu can gather Reisher for bow formation from this wing. Spirit Weapon. Uryu can also form his Quincy bow while in this state, drawing on the Reisher from his spiritual energy wing to do so. Enhanced Heilig File. In Let's Still, Uryu's spirit arrows have dramatically improved. They now pack enough power to cause large-scale explosions, leave a Captain-class Shinigami without their arm, and destroy Captain Mayuri Kuratsuchi's Bankai, Kanjiki Ashisoji Jizo, while at the same time putting a large hole in the captain's body. Enhanced Spiritual Power. In this form, Mayuri Kuratsuchi comments that his spiritual pressure has inflated. Enhanced Reisher Absorption. In this form, Uryu absorption of Reisher particles is such that he begins to break down the buildings in the Siriidii, adding to his own power. The Reisher he absorbs in this form goes directly to his spiritual energy wing. Upon witnessing this, Mayuri Kuratsuchi comments that Uryu has dominance over Reisher.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.